We need to talk about Zeruiah and Troy in this last episode because I just have so many thoughts. Before we get into that, earlier someone was on the BLK website, which is like a black singles website, and they were swiping and they came across a profile from a Z who is 32 years old, and it says open to anything. Says she's a real estate nonprofit slash business manager, and that appears to be Zeruiah. It does not say the last time this profile was updated, so maybe this was a profile she made before she got with Troy. Maybe she forgot to take it down, but it's still up there, and this person lives in the same area as Zeruiah, so they believe that this is her, and I think it looks just like her. Now let's talk about this last episode. First, we see Troy get out of prison, and he really had no desire to immediately reach out to his mother because he feels some type of way about his mother. His mother never came to see him. She pretty much abandoned him for all these years. But Zeruiah decided to step up and reach out to Troy's mom herself and catch him off guard and surprise him fresh out of prison with his mom. I feel like Zeruiah was definitely overstepping her boundaries with this. You know, it's one thing, if it's his mother's birthday or it's Mother's Day and you're like, hey, Troy, maybe you should reach out, and tell her happy birthday. But it's another thing catching him off guard and surprising him with his alcoholic mother fresh out of prison. I almost wonder if this was production that made the mom come over and set this all up, because people have been calling out Troy in Facebook groups because he's been posting nonstop him and Zeruiah's joint page, and when it's a joint page, you know what that means. They obviously don't trust each other, but they have a joint page, and Troy has constantly been promoting their page in all these different Facebook groups, like, hey, we're gonna go live tonight, tune in. I saw a few different people comment and say, oh no, we don't want to watch because we don't like how your wife pushed your mother on you. And he's like, no, that is not what happened. Well, that's what we saw, what happened on TV. And so that's what kind of makes me think maybe the producers decided to surprise him with his mother just to spice up the storyline. Because let's be honest, Zeruiah and Troy, it seems like they're definitely trying to play it real clean and be very careful about what they say and how much they expose about each other. At least that's how it has seemed so far. That's why it seems like a lot of times, like when someone's on their first season, it may not be as exciting their first season because they're kind of walking on eggshells and being careful. But it seems like a lot of times when these couples come back for life after lockup, that's when they're wilding out because now their true colors are showing. And, eventually if you film someone long enough, you're eventually going to see the mask slip. I can see it now. The producers are in the back room like, we gotta spice this storyline up. Okay, let's invite the alcoholic mom and have her come to Zeruiah's and bring up the ex nonstop, and let's have her turn up and then go to church with Zeruiah and Troy for the first time. That's a disaster waiting to happen. So the mother comes over to Zeruiah and Troy's place. Zeruiah was very anxious because she claims she's been to Troy's mother's house several times and she was kicked out every single time, and you just don't know what to expect with Troy's mom. She finally walked into their place. She liked what she was seeing, and Zeruiah decided to order some food. So they all sat down and they were all eating. And Troy's mom kept bringing up Troy's ex, which is also the mother of his daughter. And this is the child that he hasn't been able to see in years because he's been in prison and constantly getting in and out of trouble. And Troy's mom was just being very disrespectful. She kept calling her a bitch. She doesn't like her. And I just wasn't feeling that at all. It just felt tacky to me. I mean, maybe she does have an attitude problem or something for Troy's mom not to like her. But at the same time, you should be respectful towards her because she's the only one that has been there for Troy's daughter when no one else has. Troy hasn't been there. He's been in prison. And if you haven't been there for your own son, Troy, Troy, then I really doubt you've been there for your granddaughter. Troy gained some brownie points for me in this episode because he actually stepped up and stood up for the mother of his daughter. He's like, look, she has raised my daughter and been a very good mother to my daughter for the past 7 years. So I have to give her credit for that. And he basically shut his mother down. Meanwhile, Zeruiah's over there and she's just mean mugging. And she finally gets up and goes to the bedroom, and Troy goes to the bedroom and sits down. And at that point, they're ready to go to bed. But Zeruiah said, yeah, I'm going to bed, but you're not sleeping in here with me. It's the dude's first night out of prison, and she will not let him sleep in the bed because she feels some type of way because the mother that she invited, knowing how the mother is, came to dinner and brought up her ex, and she feels some type of way. But it's like, how is that Troy's fault? Troy didn't do anything but say that she's been a good mother to his daughter. When I saw this behavior from Zeruiah, it did not surprise me whatsoever because I already knew about her insecurities and jealous behavior because I've had several sources reach out to me, including that one source that spilled all that tea on Zeruiah in that video we talked about, like her criminal history and all that. And they said that Zeruiah looked at them as a threat to her relationship with Troy. And even though these females never reached out or bothered Zeruiah, she took it upon herself to start sending messages to them on Facebook, just calling them names, calling them ugly, and saying, oh, don't talk to Troy because he loves me and he's never going to be with an ugly girl like you. I'm paraphrasing, but it was pretty much like that. It was a bunch of mean girl energy. I heard the same story from 2 different women that Zeruiah was blowing them up and saying all kinds of stuff, and then she would turn around and block them, and then she would start watching these females from her friends' Facebook pages. Then she would start messaging these females again from her friends' Facebook pages, and at first she would just say like hello, and then once the conversation continued, she would pretty much just keep going where she left off when she was cussing them out on her Zeruiah page. When I saw they had the joint Facebook and Instagram page together, I'm like, okay, yep, this makes perfect sense. I already know what this is all about. And so Zeruiah punishes Troy for his mom's mouth after she invited his mom, after she abandoned the man. And so she sleeps on the bed like a little princess, and she makes Troy sleep on the couch next to his mother. Well, not next to his mother, but they're in the living room on different couches. And the next morning they wake up and it's time to get ready for church. And the mom's really anxious because she hasn't been to church in a long time. Like, she feels like she's just gonna blow up in smoke or flames as soon as she walks in the door. The mom had to do something to calm her nerves. So she decided to take 2 weed gummies and she popped them, which I thought was way too much. Like, you should have just took like a half or 1, but I don't even think she should have been taking the gummies at all before church, before you're meeting Zeruiah's parents. And I mean, you know, some people were saying, oh, that's terrible, and I do think it's wrong to do it before church. But at the same time, if any of you guys have watched Troy or Zeruiah's lives that they do, they're always smoking a fat blunt or joint and passing it. So they have cultivated an environment where that seems like acceptable, where smoking a joint is almost just like sitting there drinking a glass of water in their house. But at the same time, there's a time and place for everything, just like Zeruiah said. And the mom thought she could control herself, but you could already tell that that gummy was already starting to hit a few minutes in. She's walking around talking about how she ain't wearing no panties and she needs to find her coochie spray and just saying and doing the absolute most. The mom has zero filter whatsoever and has to give you a play-by-play of every little single thing that goes through her head. And Zeruiah is already panicking because she knows that she's already acting like this, then it's probably not going to be very good in church. So they all get in the car, they head to church, and they walk in. And they sit down in the front row, which I thought was a terrible idea, but I get it. They usually save the front row for, family members or big members of the church. And they all sit down, they're clapping, they're singing, and then Zeruiah's father starts preaching to the church. And Zeruiah was kind of excited because her dad does preaching a little differently. He does it like where he does a lot of crowd work, and he really does interactive church services where he talks to everyone that's in the audience and tries to get them involved. And before we could even get to see him really get deep into that, he starts preaching, and not even 10 seconds in, Troy's mom is front row giggling non-stop. She cannot stop giggling. She's talking about how Zeruiah's dad is a little ghetto when he preaches, and she likes that, and talking about how Zeruiah's mom is pretty, and she could just not stop giggling. She could not kick the case of the giggles, and Zeruiah's just sitting there freaking out. And she was sitting next to Troy's mom. I feel like Troy should have been sitting next to his mom. And when it stopped giggling, Zeruiah kept looking at Troy like, look, she's not chilling out. Troy should have handled that. It's like he was just sitting back waiting for Zeruiah to handle it, or just hoping it would stop when the mother was just continuing to laugh over and over again. And I mean, that's not very respectful to the father. I would feel like the mother's making fun of me if this is the first time I'm meeting her and she's cracking up the whole time she's in the front row of the service. She was just drawing attention to all them in the front row, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so she's already acting like this at the beginning of the service. I can't even imagine how she's gonna act when she finally meets the parents afterwards, if she can even make it till then. If I was Troy, I would have been like, okay, mom, calm down, calm down. And she couldn't calm down. I would have made her like go step outside. Like, let's go outside, smoke a cigarette, or, go walk for like a couple minutes and then come back and chill out, because obviously she's not going to calm down just sitting there. The man wasn't even saying anything funny while he was preaching, but she couldn't stop laughing. So just imagine if he would have actually said a joke. Oh my gosh, she probably would have been on the floor rolling at that point. And the mom just kept giggling and giggling. And she reminded me of this clip I saw the other day. I can't remember where it was from. I think it was like the neighborhood talk or something. And there was this girl that was at this graduation, and she was supposed to be the person that like spoke and said like, okay, here's Kevin Samuels, and he's coming to get his master's degree. I guess apparently she took a few gummies right before this happened, and right before she went on stage to announce everyone, she's like talking to this lady behind stage, and she's like, okay, so what all am I supposed to say? Do I say their name, their degree, how many years they've been in school, where they're from? And the lady was like, oh heavens no. And I guess the girl thought it was so funny, she could not stop laughing. Like 10 seconds later, they finally called her on stage to announce everyone on stage. And she's like, hi, my name is... And she couldn't even get to her name because she could not stop laughing. Like, she tried to start over so many times. She tried to step back and take a few breaths because she was laughing so hard. I think we've all been there before, where we laugh so hard that you literally gotta fight to finally stop. And that's exactly how the mother was. That edible is kicking in hard, and Zeruiah is having a million regrets that she invited Troy's mom. And I guess we're gonna see how it all plays out in the next episode when she finally gets to meet Zeruiah's parents. I think that's definitely going to be interesting, and I'm glad they invited the mom though, because she definitely made this episode a lot more interesting. In my opinion, besides this whole scene with Zeruiah and Troy's mom, and with True and Shantae, I feel like the rest of the episode was pretty boring. Like, I would give it like a C- or D. Let me know what you guys think. And what do you guys think about Troy's mom going crazy in church like that? In the comments below. Check out my lashes at AccordingtoAmber.com. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.